Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning has been on mentoring. If you ask someone about their success, you're likely to hear about an influential mentor. Whether it's professional, personal, or spiritual, mentoring is often a catalyst for growth and accomplishment. My next guest is LaNelle Ramey. He is the Interim Executive Director for MENTOR Greater Milwaukee. How you doing, LaNelle?
I'm great. Thanks, Andrea.
I'm glad to have you here. And you've been on the show before.
I have, yes.
And everything you do is really about the betterment of young men of color.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So glad to have you back. And right off the bat, tell us more about MENTOR Greater Milwaukee, which is powered by the Milwaukee Bucks.
Absolutely. About 4 years ago, Milwaukee Public Schools in the city of Milwaukee wanted to really put together a team to talk about what was needed for mentoring in Milwaukee. And really what came out of that study was simply, we needed better mentoring, right? We needed to figure out how to tear down silos when it came to mentoring, how families had better access to mentoring. So with the city of Milwaukee, Milwaukee Public Schools, and the Milwaukee Bucks, decided to come together to create the affiliate of Mentor National, which was Mentor Greater Milwaukee, to allow it to be a catalyst here in the city to help spur the current mentoring organizations we have here and provide better support so families as well as mentors know where they can go for services.
Okay, so kind of like a resource.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And when you hear powered by the Milwaukee Bucks, you see how I say it every time, but what level of involvement does the Bucks have?
Well, the Bucks are not only just a founding partner helping establish Mentor Greater Milwaukee, but they also help bring their brand, right? They're the hottest ticket moving in the state, right? When you think about the Milwaukee Bucks, but they're able to reach a fan base and beyond to open the doors for individuals who are not only just curious about what mentoring is, what are the various mentoring programs that exist, but then families as well, right, can be engaged and pulled in by what the Milwaukee Bucks bring. So not only just as a founding partner that's just brand only, but they also help financially as well as MPS in the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It takes a village.
Yes.
And statistics show that a mentor increases a student's likelihood of attending college by 50%. And youth in a mentor program are 46% less likely to use drugs and 27% less likely to use alcohol. So when you talk about those statistics, that's pretty powerful.
And when you even add on to the fact that a youth that has a mentor is even 90% more likely to become a mentor themselves, right? So then they're talking about giving back and being more involved. But a lot of times our young people need kind of a different voice. I mean, we have mentorship programs for young men, young women who also have family in the house, right? They may have two parents, but still need a different perspective.
Yeah.
So there's different lanes for young people to receive mentorship. And that's what we want to do at Mentor Greater Milwaukee, is make sure that people in this community know about the vast mentoring opportunities that are available, regardless of a young person's background, regardless of where they come from, or even their interests. And we want people to know that.
Yeah, and so we have mentioned community involvement is huge. And so in your experience, mentoring truly can make a difference in a child's life. And I'm really wanting you to kind of share some success stories with us, if you can, about maybe some young people you've come in contact with who had one storyline and then the narrative totally changed because of what they were exposed to through mentoring.
Well, it's just that, right? The exposure, it's opportunity to hear different stories. Because sometimes our young people are unfortunately stuck in bubbles, or in Milwaukee, they're stuck in a segregated community, so they're only used to seeing certain things one way.
Yeah.
What mentorship provides at all levels is an opportunity to have exposure in a variety of different ways. And when adults are able to tell their story and how they were able to persevere, so to speak, through their shortcomings in life, young people then see a hope for themselves. One quick story we have is in a mentorship program that we have with the Milwaukee Public Schools. We have President Mark Sain, or former President Mark Sain of the school board, was mentoring young men at Washington High School. Well, when those young men were able to hear his story, how he came through Washington High School, what he endured, what he went through, and he came out on this other end hitting a high level as a fire employee, a cadet, fire chief, all that good stuff. Those young men now have a different story, different motivation, and they're able to say, you came through Washington High School, the same neighborhood I came through. Those are the things that we love to see, because sometimes, again, it's just about conversation. It's just about breaking down barriers and walls to have a dialogue.
Yeah, they connect those dots, and they know there is hope, regardless of what they deal with. So in your opinion, LaNelle, what are the qualities of a good mentor?
Someone that wants to, one, listen, Because a lot of times I think mentors think they have to be the one that's coming doing all the talking.
And know everything.
And know everything. No,
Yeah.
It's about learning the child who you're mentoring so you can hear their story, so then you can offer up, right? And sometimes it may not be what you personally have experienced, but sometimes a child just wants someone to listen to them, hear what they're going through, and not wag the finger or say like, well, you know, hey, if I was you, this is what I would do. No, it's just about being able to listen, but then also being dedicated. And what I mean by that is not necessarily saying you have to do 30 hours a month. If you say you're going to do something with a young person, follow through. That's the dedication. Too many times our young people are used to having people in and out of their lives commit to something that they don't follow through in. We need people mentors need to be dedicated to what they commit to. And that's the great thing about mentoring organizations throughout this city. We have a blend of them. You don't have to say, well, I want to do this one. You have an option to choose what works for you and works for your lifestyle. And if you're dedicated and willing to listen, those young people will be very appreciative of that.
Yeah, and so young people gain increased self-esteem when having a mentor and so much more. But you mentioned just like the resources of mentoring organizations. Can you name a few that are part of the pool right off the top?
Well, we work with Running Rebels, of course, here, right? Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We're in the process of coordinating what Boys and Girls Club of Greater Milwaukee looks like. MPS, we have a mentoring program in our first Thursday mentoring program. So there are some really big names. But then we also know, though, there's organizations like our faith-based community.
And those grassroots,
right, and we want to get connected with them. So we want them to come join Mentor Greater Milwaukee through our connector. So families and neighborhoods know that they're being offered right in the heart of our city who are offering great programs. And we want to help guide them through what a good mentoring program looks like too. But we're here to support those organizations as well.
All right, so the big question is Mentor Greater Milwaukee currently looking for mentors?
We are always looking for mentors. Our goal is by January 2020, we want to recruit just 1,000 new mentors alone through our organization that we're helping put out into the community. So Mentor Greater Milwaukee is not a direct service. We are a provider of support for other mentor organizations. So our goal is to work with whether small or big, how do we get more mentors into the city of Milwaukee, to county of Milwaukee,
and then distribute them out.
As needed. Yes.
I love this whole concept. And so what would be the procedures for someone who's interested in being a mentor?
The easiest way is they can go to our MilwaukeeMentor.com website. There is a tab that simply clicks, I want to be a mentor, or if you're a parent or a family member looking for a mentoring organization, you can click on there as well and see what's in your community. That is the easiest way. The other way, of course, is if they know organizations they're interested in, they can definitely give those individuals a call. But we want mentoring organizations to also sign up to be a part of our connector, which then connects those mentors to what's happening throughout the community. So they too can go to MilwaukeeMentor.com and then sign up as well.
All right, so here's the thing. When you talk about mentoring, it's not just for young people. You have mentors who also benefit from investing in others, and so the impact of helping someone realize their potential and giving back to the community, that is a powerful way to invest in the next generation. Would you agree?
I definitely would agree. I think individuals find, we always see the mentors that we work with, they get a sense of fulfillment out of actually providing that, right? Because a lot of times people say, I wish I had that, right? And this is a way for them to give back. And then they end up having a tendency to want to do it more and more, and that's what we see.
Yeah. So let's talk about you. Did you have a mentor growing up?
You know what? It was two mentors in my life, and of course, one was my father. Now, he was the strength, the foundation. He set the principle. But another was a teacher. And it was funny because my freshman year in high school was his first year teaching in high school. And he would pour into me when I didn't even realize some of the potential I had. And he stayed doing that all 4 years of my high school, to the point where when it's time for me to apply for college, he said, you know what? You're going to apply to this college, and this is where you're going to go.
And you went to Morehouse College.
I ended up going to Morehouse College based upon that, right? So it was because of his energy that helped me get there.
Wow,
Yes.
I love that. So are you in contact with that teacher?
He just retired after over 30 years of teaching.
You can say his name.
Thomas Wow, yes, Tom Wow. And everybody knows this. I love him to death for what he did, so yes.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that too. So who are some of the individuals in the community that some of these organizations organizations gather to speak to kids? Because looking at the website, I saw Vin Baker, and Ashanti Hamilton.
Yes.
I saw a lot of individuals who do have great stories, especially Vin. And Vin's very open about the ups and the downs. You hear so many kids saying, I want to play basketball, I want to go to the NBA, I want to go to the NFL. And he's able to shed some light on the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And that's what we want to happen, right? For our adult mentors to share their journey, right? Because everybody sees it when it's the high moments, never the low.
Right.
So when you mentioned Common Council President Ashanti Hamilton, we've had Alderman Khalif Rainey, Mark Wade, Mark Sain. Like, we've had individuals who have committed to telling their stories, Kwabena Antoine Nixon. So these gentlemen have come in and given their story, again, not just the highs, but the low moments too, to help the young people that they're mentoring get through what they're going through.
Yeah, and you got to realize that everything in life is not always, you know, wonderful and butterflies and classical music.
Right. It's not all confetti and balloons, right? Everybody has a journey, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has to take those journeys.
Yeah, and we always say what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes.
So our last segment, we were talking with the director of the Milwaukee Fellows and one of the participants. And LaNelle, your son was a part of that program a couple of years ago, and you actually serve on a committee with them. So talk about, in your opinion, what the Milwaukee Fellows did for your own son.
Well, again, it opens doors sometimes. Even as parents, we sometimes don't even realize our sons haven't seen, right? Milwaukee Fellows does just that, and they invest into these young men to see Milwaukee through a different lens and then bring back their passion for their city. And that's what it did for my son. He wants to be more engaged now. He wants to be more involved now. He's even mentored in some cases under the MKE Fellows umbrella. So for me to kind of see it come full circle, that's what we want to do. But importantly, we want those young boys to come back here becoming young, strong men in our community, giving back at a high level.
That's what it's all about. And so talk about the importance of programs like Milwaukee Fellows, the MPS Department of Black and Latino Achievement, which you work closely with, Mentor Greater Milwaukee. Like I said, you're involved in a lot of things in our city. And talk about how those organizations and so many others really do help change the narrative of young men of color living here in Milwaukee.
What we have seen under the Mentor umbrella is so many silos have been created in Milwaukee around this work. What we find is when you talk to them individually, all of these great storylines come out. We want to be able to showcase that around this entire city, this state, more about all of the great things that are happening through mentoring capacities throughout the city of Milwaukee. The Department of Black and Latino Male Achievement, even though it's a 2-year-old organization, we already served about 200 young men in mentoring, but that was because of mentors who were willing to dedicate their time to do that. We know that happens at the Rebels, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and like I said, smaller church base. We really want to expand that under Mentor Greater Milwaukee to make sure there's more access of quality mentoring happening for our young people throughout the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming by and telling us more about this organization, how people can get involved and help make a difference in the lives of young people. And thank you for all that you do.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure. LaNelle Ramey is the Interim Executive Director for Mentor Greater Milwaukee. For more information on anything that we've discussed today, you can visit their website at MilwaukeeMentor.com. And that is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, thank you for watching. And I do hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues, Milwaukee. Have a great day.